How many of you remember growing up and getting really excited about the cereal boxes that had the little prize in the bottom? Yeah? Yeah, okay. I got so excited about figuring out what was going to come next in my cereal boxes. And I specifically remember one time Trix cereal promoted that at the bottom of their cereal box, they were going to have this little spy decoder. And the spy decoder promised me that I would become the best spy in the world. And I knew that I needed it. And my mom didn't let us eat Trix, but somehow I convinced her to go to the store because I had to go get this decoder. I ate through the whole box, super excited to get to my prize at the bottom of it. I remember picking up that decoder and being so incredibly disappointed. It was this plastic piece of just crap, like the flimsiest little piece of crap in all of the commercials that I had watched and all of the things that I had seen on the grocery store. I realized they'd been lying to me, and I was only 10, so I could have been easily fooled, but it was nothing that I wanted. So I didn't even use it, and I just threw it away. And I vowed from that time forward that I was never, ever, ever, ever again going to get excited about anything in my Happy Meal or in my cereal box. I think that's how life works sometimes, even as adults. That we see these things that are promised to us, that if we just wear this, or if we eat this, or if we consume enough of this, or if we learn enough about this, then there's this crazy, mystical, magical prize at the bottom of it, and then suddenly we're going to be happy. Or suddenly we're going to step into this life that we've always wanted. Or suddenly everything's going to be perfect. And we convince ourselves that everything that we need is outside of everything that we are and that we already have. Tonight, I'm not here to give you a broken promise and have you find nothing at the bottom of a Trix cereal box. Tonight, I am here to invite you. I am here to invite you to uncover your power, your own power, that cannot be found anywhere else or at the bottom of any box that you're searching through and for right now. And as you uncover your power, I invite you to start living your life with your eyes wide open to how your life is right now, no matter if it's everything that you wanted it to be or maybe far off from what it is that you ever thought it would end up like. When I first met her, she took my breath away, but not in the good way. In the way that I felt like someone had just punched me so hard in the gut that I was going to throw up on my knees because I couldn't even stand up anymore because she made me so weak. The first time I met her, she came barreling through my house like this storm, and she took over absolutely everything inside. Inside of my house, inside of me, inside of everyone that I knew. What I hated the most about her is that she would show up during the times that she was least invited. Whether I was just washing the dishes, or trying to work, or simply driving out of my neighborhood to run errands, or shopping for food at the grocery store, she would just show up. And no matter how hard I tried to get rid of her, she would not leave me alone. Her name was Grief. And though I don't know how you might have met her in your life, I know that that's something that we all share. So the details of how I have met grief in my life aren't really important. But what's important is that I understand exactly how you have felt. Grief shows up with other names sometimes too. Depression, fear, anxiety, sadness, pain, And not just the kind of pain where someone pinches you and it kind of hurts a little bit, but the kind of pain that literally drops you to your knees and you do not know how you're going to stand up again. And you actually don't even think it's possible to stand up again because she has made you so tired that you just don't know what to do next. And I got to that point where I had felt like I was in pain on my knees for so long. I didn't want grief to just keep sticking to me anymore. So I decided that the only way that I could get grief and pain and depression away from me is that if I could outrun it, then I could outlast it. So I thought that if I could just run faster, if I could travel, I convinced my husband that we were going to go to Europe for a couple of months because I just wanted to get away. We sold everything that we owned and we moved across the country. I picked up more work projects than a human could possibly do in their whole span of their life in just a few months' time period. And no matter how fast I ran, at some point grief would just pop up next to me again. I realized that I couldn't outrun her. One day I learned something that changed my life forever. I learned why I can't outrun grief, which means that I also learned why you can't outrun grief. You're not supposed to. We're not supposed to outrun grief or pain or fear or anxiety or depression. We can't. And I learned that I had been viewing my pain wrong for a long time. That instead of outrunning it, what I was really supposed to do was I was supposed to invite her in and ask her to sit with me and then ask her to teach me. There's the things that I have learned in my pain that have served me the most in my life. In the middle of my depression, and I just didn't know how to stand back up again. I could hardly get out of bed. My husband convinced me that we were going to go boxing, and he went for a while on his own. But finally, when he told me that I was being invited to a place where it was socially acceptable to hit things, like anything, and no one was going to get mad at me for it, I was like, okay, sign me up. I can go hit things, and that sounds really good to me. And so we went boxing, and I loved it so much that we decided that we were going to get a trainer who we work with now. Side note, this trainer right here, Jared, I just learned, we've been training with him for almost a year. I just learned a couple months ago that before he started training us, that he was the coach for one of the heavyweight champions of the world on Floyd Mayweather's team. And I have never been so embarrassed or humbled about anything in my life because I knew that what he went from to now who he's working with, Mike and Ashley Lemieux, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really intense. But knowing that about Jared and seeing him, you can imagine that when you're training with him, it's a little bit intimidating sometimes. He's a big, really strong guy who really knows what he's doing. Last month was the 2-year anniversary of when my husband and I unexpectedly lost our 2 children. And specifically on that day, we scheduled a session with Jared so that I could just go punch things for as hard and as long as I wanted to. I remember waking up that day, and it was like all the pain that I had felt 2 years prior just came. Anniversaries do that to you. And if you've had hard anniversaries, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It makes your world just kind of shrink up and takes you right back into the middle of the pain. And I didn't know how I was going to make it through a session. I was throwing up. I was so physically sick. So we go to the session, and we're doing something called mitt work. And with mitt work, I have my gloves on, and then he has mitts on. And we do combinations where I hit him, and then after a while, he will start kind of coming after me back. Well, on this particular day, because he came at me so hard after my combinations were done, I got out of my stance and I totally flinched, and him coming at me just knocked me off what I was doing so hard. And he looked at me and he said, "Embrace the storm, Ashley. What are you doing? Embrace the storm." I was like, what is he talking about? Embrace the storm? There's this huge man coming at me right now. Like, you are the storm, Jared. I want to embrace you. You're going to hurt me. So he told me to get back in my stance, and I did. I went through my combinations again, and the same thing happened. He came at me really fast and really hard, and again I flinched back. It was just like this natural reaction. I just wanted to move as far away from that pain or that hit as possible. He threw off his mitts, and when he throws off his mitts, I know that he means like serious business, and I better listen. He said, "Ashley, I told you to embrace the storm. You know that I'm going to hit you. You know the hit is coming. You already know it's coming, so why are you running away from it? The second you flinch away from me, you lose all of your power. You lose all of your power, and so you're not able to come at me as if with the same power that you would have if you would have stood there and embraced the storm." I don't know what happened to me in that moment, but I felt like for the first time in the 2 years since we had lost our children, that I was finally ready to accept the permission that I have to stop running away when life gets hard. And that instead, the power that is inside of me and the same power that is inside of all of you is the very power that you need to be able to stand up and embrace the storm. Pain and depression and anger and sadness causes a well inside of us, and we have two options. We get to fill it with two different things. The first one is fear. When we fill our wells with fear, we tell ourselves that we're not strong enough to embrace whatever's happening, that we must run away, and that maybe happiness is waiting for us inside of an alcohol bottle or inside of more retail therapy or inside of another broken relationship or inside of scrolling mindlessly on social media or getting lost in Friday Night Lights, which was my show of choice when I didn't want the world involved in my life anymore. Fear tells us that who we are is not powerful enough to feel pain and still keep going through it, and it makes us run away. But we have another choice. The other choice that we have to fill up our well is love. When we choose love, we choose ourselves. When we choose love, we choose our life as it is, without needing to fix it, without needing to put bandages on it so that it's acceptable to everybody else. When we embrace the storms in our lives, we're fully able to know what our power is and where it lies. So that's my invitation to you tonight. To stay in your stance. Embrace your storm. And use your power. Thank you.